Welcome back to Marvel Good Yay, the spinoff of the Geek Easy Podcast, where we're going back to rewatch all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films leading up to the release of Avengers Endgame. I am Pixel Dan.
I'm Jonathan Leonard.
And Jaron McCaffrey.
And today we're here to discuss Doctor Strange. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm so happy we watched this.
Man, these are two... Well, Doctor Strange is a really, really strong entrance.
Yeah.
It like maybe one of the stronger standalones.
I could see that for sure. Yeah.
It was this was totally one too where it's kind of another one of those characters that kind of, but you don't know a lot, and there's always that potential for people to be like, who the heck is Doctor Strange? Where would we see this movie? But at this point Marvel's kind of got that track record of making stars out of all of these lower tier Marvel characters, so you're excited to see this movie going into it. And man, it totally delivers for me.
I don't know, after making Thor awesome, I don't know that they'll ever make one that I'm not excited about seeing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I would have put this on the exact same level going into it. I read enough comics back in the day to where Doctor Strange would show up once in a while, but I was never into Doctor Strange, you know? I read the encyclopedias, so I knew about his powers and the some of the history and stuff like that, but I never got into any of the stories. But coming into the movie, with Benedict Cumberbatch involved, which I thought just had the look, once they actually started showing pictures of him, I was like, okay, he looks like he's straight out of the comics. Like, they're not messing around here at all. I have no idea what to expect out of this movie because I don't know anything about Doctor Strange, but I'm just going to go ahead and be excited because they made Thor good, so they can do anything.
That's awesome. All right, you want to give us some stats on the Doctor Strange movie?
Financials. Okay. Production budget of $165 million, so one of their smaller pictures, but that makes total sense for where they were both in the phase and with the character and just trying to get him introduced.
Which also doesn't look like it.
No, I mean,
the visuals on this movie make it look like one of the more expensive ones.
Yeah, I really want to go and look and see how much Inception cost.
Yeah,
because this is right along those same lines, and I bet this cost $100 million less.
Yeah,
if I had to guess, but I don't know. The domestic total was $232 million, so made its money back and then some just here in the States. Foreign total of $445 for a grand total of $677 million box office for a movie starring Doctor Strange.
That's
amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing.
Interesting to note. I mean, you say for a movie starring Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is one of the ones that they've been trying to get made since the 70s.
Yeah, well, they made one in the 70s.
Did they?
Yeah, it's like it might have been a TV thing. I don't think it was a theatrical thing, but there's definitely an old Doctor Strange movie.
I think there's an old made-for-TV Doctor Strange, but there's also that movie. I think it's like a Hammer Films, or it's one of the smaller studios, maybe even Troma.
Justin Hammer.
No.
Justin Hammer. Yeah, that's him. He made movies.
It's not Doctor Strange, but it is, and it went into production thinking they had the rights for it, and then they found out they did not have the rights.
Okay.
And I should have looked it up if I was going to bring it up. I can't remember the name of it now. But it's a crazy cheap Doctor Strange movie.
Well, you know what? Inception's budget was only $160 million, so right along the exact same line, and it made $828 million, which is right along the exact same line. So cost pretty much the same, made just a little bit more, but right up there. But Inception had a lot of star power to it.
Yeah, totally.
Doctor Strange had the Marvel logo. Yeah. And some interesting actors.
Oh, and Benedict,
I don't know, man.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I mean, he to this point, he had never really headlined any big budget movies or anything like that. He's a guy everybody liked, but I don't think he
already done. Was he Imitation Game?
That was after, I believe.
Was it after?
Also, not a big. I mean, that wasn't like an Oscar bait film, but not like a summer blockbuster film.
Well, I mean, fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch was a pretty big deal. I mean, he had been Sherlock. He had You know, like
I'm not saying he's not, but there's a tier of like, and this has really shifted over the last decade or so anyway. A lot to do with the way the superhero movie genre and Marvel specifically has done stuff. But there's a difference between being a named actor and being an actual box office draw.
Okay,
you know?
yeah.
Like people will go pay to see Tom Cruise in anything.
Right.
You know. People are interested that Benedict Cumberbatch is in a movie, but they're not necessarily going to shell it out until they know what they're going into.
That's fair.
Now, the Marvel logo, clearly they will.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, where do you guys want to start the discussion with this one, then? Should we start from Doctor at the beginning? Just Doctor?
Yeah, you know, it had right when you start the movie, it had a very... Like, we watch a decent amount of medical dramas at my house, or we've watched a few. I don't know. There's probably 100 of them. We've watched like 2. So maybe not a decent amount, but it feels like a lot. But right when this movie starts and they go into that whole medical scene where he's just, you know, diagnosing that guy from across the room.
Yep.
You know, like she brings him that thing and is like, hey, we're about, you know, this guy's...
They declare him dead.
Yeah, the other doctors already declared this guy dead, and you could just see in his eye that he knows better than that, and goes running. It felt very like ER or Grey's Anatomy or something like that,
totally.
which to me piqued my interest right away because I'm like, ooh, this is familiar and I like it. But it was a good little introduction to set up how good of a doctor he is. It's kind of getting the point across there with just a few seconds. We get introduced to Rachel McAdams right away, which I almost forgot was in the Marvel Universe.
Same. Yeah. I totally forgot until I started watching this. I was like, oh yeah, wow. Well, it's cool because you get introduced to this character. Like, we know that this character is about to go down this path of like supernatural and all this, you know, crazy magical voodoo stuff. And they establish him right away as a very science-based, fact-based, smart doctor-type character, you know? Like, he believes in science and stuff. So it's a really cool way to set him up and to go on this, like, transformation that he goes through where he learns that there's more out there than just the science and everything. Yeah.
It also gives him the opportunity to be really cocky and overbearing, but still, what's the, you know, whatever the term would be that I clearly cannot find, but likable to the audience at least, you know, I guess.
He's kind of a jerk to that other doctor.
Yeah, for sure. But like I don't know, like I don't. Maybe I'm just a jerk, but I just watched him be better than everybody there, but still crack jokes. Yeah, you know.
I mean,
and still save that guy or that
right.
You know,
pulled that bullet out of that guy's head.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it's along the same lines of Tony Stark.
Sort of.
You kind of like watching him be a jerk to everybody. You know, and he's totally grounded. I mean, not grounded. He's everything he says is true. You know, you can't argue with him. He's right. Yeah. He's right.
Yeah.
So you can't be like, well, he's just a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. You're like, well, he's a total jerk, but he's right.
I think it's important, too, to kind of point out the way the timeline for this movie works with the overall MCU, because the way this movie is set up, there's like little clues throughout the movie that this story is actually taking place over a pretty substantial period of time in the MCU, because in that beginning scene after we leave the hospital, when we're getting to the car scene, they do that pan of New York City where you can clearly see Avengers Tower there, still like a brand new looking Avengers Tower.
Yeah. So it's after the New York battle.
It's after the New York incident, but it's before basically everything else probably.
Well, in that car scene, there's a couple of like Easter eggs that I don't know if they've been even fully figured out or ever explained, but he's on the phone as he's driving, looking for the next case to work on, and the guy's giving him these options. And one of the options he gave him is like a military colonel with like a broken back from an accident with a
power suit,
with an experimental power suit,
right?
Which I have seen referenced as probably being Rhodey, but I don't. That can't be.
No, it's got to be.
This had to take place way before Civil War.
Yeah, this has got to be one of the guys from Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's one of the Hammer guys or whatever they were testing on.
Yeah,
because the injury and everything worked fine for Rhodey, which did just happen in the audience's minds because it was very recent movie-wise. However, that no one would consider that an experimental metal suit, you know?
Right.
Like, he would have said War Machine got hurt. You know? Like,
Fair
people
call,
know who
yeah.
War Machine is, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think they were...
Story. Boom, you looking for this?
You know, and I don't think they would have referred to the Iron Man suits as experimental at this
Right.
point, you know?
Yeah.
And then he, so I would place this right around Iron Man 2 timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing he says is something about a girl who gets electrocuted, like she's got some kind of implant and she gets electrocuted, and I don't think I know who that is.
I know. I feel like they were dropping references to Marvel characters, and I wasn't getting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it definitely felt like there was a reason for the things he was saying, and I was just like, I don't know who he's referencing. That's kind of how I felt.
I tried to read up on that a little bit, and one of the things I found, but the thing I found was from around the time the movie came out.
Right.
So one of the theories at the time was that it might have been an alteration of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I
which
was going to
clearly
say.
wasn't, as we find out now.
Yep.
Another one said it would. There's a possibility maybe it was like a Typhoid Mary, but I don't know much about Typhoid Mary or how that would fit in.
I just know the name.
But
I don't
has she
know.
been
well,
has she been in the Daredevil series now?
Typhoid Mary was in the Daredevil
Yeah.
series, and she had multiple personalities.
Yeah.
She was so awesome. It was, man, I was blown away by how they handled that character.
Cool.
It was
I still
awesome.
haven't watched the 3rd season of Daredevil.
Oh, you got to.
I know.
It's-
I'm way behind on the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I'm still on season 2 of Luke Cage. So I keep wanting to watch Daredevil 3, and I know I don't have to watch it in order, but I go, well, I can't until I watch like 4 other seasons.
That's how I feel too.
Well, is there? No, I mean, really, all you have to watch.
I gotta finish Cage 2 and Iron Fist 2.
Because we're still, I'm still working my way through Jessica Jones 2.
Don't bother with Iron Fist.
I'm watching
2.
Iron Fist.
I don't.
Don't.
I'm okay with not bothering with Iron Fist.
I liked Iron Fist 1.
What Iron Fist 2 has some redeemable things to watch. There's no reason to prioritize it above.
Oh, I wasn't gonna prioritize it above anything. I'm gonna prioritize order.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. That's dumb. Just shuffle it back to the end.
We should talk about Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Oh, Doctor Strange. Sorry. All right, so Doctor Strange
Danny's
has
just gonna
this
take a break and read some
horrible
comics.
car accident.
I'm getting this out for a discussion in a little bit, actually. Yes, Doctor Strange is in this horrible car accident. Well, and this is even this scene is kind of like showing his kind of cockiness, right? Because he's got this super crazy fancy car.
Well, he's totally a Marvel Ric Flair at this moment,
Dude,
right?
no kidding, right? He's got this ridiculously nice car. He's flying down these winding little roads, going around cars, like just driving like that jerk that you all hate on the highway, right? Like he's
the one that passes you and you go, I hope he flies off a cliff.
Yes. And then, boom, that's exactly what happens to Doctor Strange. He loses control of the car, rolls, flies off a cliff, gets in a terrible accident. They even do that scene where they totally focus on his hands in the wreck, where like you see his hands fly into the dashboard in front of him, which is just...
and all the glass.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, he gets mangled in this accident. And when he's at the hospital, like we realize that the most of the damage is to his hands, and that's a big deal since he's a surgeon. And so like this scene here too feels like a very long, like this is a big time lapse, right? Because like we do the surgery, we kind of get all these glimpses of him like frustrated and mad and trying to like use his hands, and like it's progressing, and so like definitely a lot of time is passing here because obviously he's
being a jerk to the physical therapist.
Yeah, being a jerk to the physical therapist. Yeah,
they call him bachelor degree. You think this is really doing any good, bachelor's degree?
That's messed up.
Yeah. Well, and they give us that right away. I thought that was interesting. One of the things before we breeze past this too much, he wakes up and he's, Rachel McAdams is there with him and he's looking at his mangled hands with metal screws and everything sticking out of him.
And he's like blaming other people.
Well, yeah, he goes, what do they do? And she's like, nobody could have done any better. And he's immediately like, I could have done better.
Yeah.
And you're just like, some people learn from their near-death experiences.
Yeah. Like,
some people do not.
Buddy, you couldn't even drive a car without blowing it up. So.
Yeah.
You could have done better by staying on the road.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, and it immediately, like you said, just automatic jerk. Like
Yeah.
that's his first response to anything
Yep.
is, you know, somebody else messed my hands up now.
Yeah.
Like by not fixing it right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and wasn't it the other doctor from the beginning?
No, they don't say.
Okay.
They don't say that because he's he doesn't even ask, he just asks what they do, and she starts explaining it, and he's complains about it or something, and she's like, nobody could have done any better, you know, nobody else could have done better, and he's like, I could have done better.
Yeah.
Well, we have this section now where, like you said, like there's a span of time here because you don't wake up from a coma with your hands all mangled and then 3 days later you're walking around going through physical therapy and then 3 days later you're trying to get, you know, back on to do something, you know, like trying to figure out what you can do medically and like that takes some time and you don't get to the point where you're willing to go to Tibet to fix it without really hitting rock bottom for a while. So you got to assume this time span here is months at least.
And they show him researching stuff and trying to get other experimental procedures done. They get to the scene with him and Rachel McAdams in his apartment when which is basically his rock bottom scene.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah.
Which is just, an amazing scene. I mean, 18 minutes into this movie, and Benedict Cumberbatch sets a new precedent for acting in the Marvel movies.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Is he... Do we think he's as good as Norton?
Ooh.
As far as an actor goes?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, well, maybe not as far as an actor goes, as far as the performance he turned in. I feel like his performance through the whole movie is probably the best, like purely like on a purely acting, you know, as far as immersing himself in the role. I stopped seeing Benedict Cumberbatch and just see Dr. Stephen Strange.
Here's the only way I can respond to that right now. I want to put more thought into that than just throwing an answer out.
Yeah.
But the fact that my answer isn't immediately no speaks volumes.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So it's also important too when we're talking about the physical therapist that he mentioned something to Strange about how you never know, you shouldn't give up, because I've seen a guy who, you know, had a severed spine or whatever and was paralyzed from the waist down, and he started walking again. And Dr. Strange didn't believe him. And so like when we're at that rock bottom scene, he gets that file delivered to him that says like told you so, and it's like the medical file for the guy who the physical therapist said learned to walk again after being paralyzed.
Yep.
And that's when Doctor Strange decides he's going to find this guy and figure out, you know, see for himself.
Right.
So he tracks the guy down to like a basketball court, and he sees him running around and playing sports, and he's kind of in disbelief, and he's basically like, you know, he talks to him. He's like, how did this happen or whatever? And that's where he gets told about Tibet or whatever. That the place that he needs to visit is called
Kamar-Taj.
Kamar-Taj. Yeah, the place he wants to visit is called Kamar-Taj. So he decides he's going to do it. He's going to set out and figure out what's there that allowed this man to get fixed.
So that actor is somebody, right? Is he looks super familiar.
Benjamin Bratt.
Okay.
I think his name is.
What else is he?
I mean, I don't know that
anything off.
I've seen him plenty.
Yeah.
But I don't know that anything I could tell you like to headline him from or something like that. I've seen him in a lot of TV guest roles. I know he's been in some movies, but
in my mind, he's Lou Diamond Phillips.
For sure. Yeah, totally get that.
like anytime I'm not watching that movie, I'm like, oh, that's a movie with Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah.
He's a guy that broke his back, right?
Yeah.
But that's a good scene too, because that's the first time we see Strange even capable of anything like humility.
Yeah.
You know, because even that guy is like, I tried to see you, you wouldn't even see me, because you know, no glory in something you didn't think you could heal.
Which is something we got from that. I mean, the phone conversation right before the crash. He basically says something like that, like, "I'm not going to ruin my perfect record on something I might not be able to do."
Yep.
You know. So.
Yep. And so then, you know, he has to kind of humble himself and be like, "You found a way back. I'm looking for my own way back," and holds up his hands.
Yeah. He doesn't know what to do with his hands.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Literally.
So yeah, that brings us to his journey, basically.
Yep.
In this foreign land, he's just walking around. He's basically trying to locate the Kamar-Taj, right?
Yes.
Is the name of the place. And then we have the scene too where he gets jumped by like just some random guys that are trying to mug him, and they want to take his watch. which he was very partial to his watch, and then we found out later it's because it had the encryption on the back of it, right? From
Amy Adams gave it to him.
Rachel McAdams. Rachel McAdams' character. But he gets saved at this point by somebody he doesn't know who he is, but turns out later to be Mordo, right? That's the character's name is Mordo, which is basically how he gets the introduction into what he's looking for. This is how he finds what he's looking for.
Well, he's walking through the streets just randomly saying camertage to people.
Yeah.
And you get that shot of Mordo like hearing him walk by and kind of having his interest peak.
Is he a Baron? Is it Baron Mordo in the comics?
I have no idea.
Or am I making that up? I'm just trying to think of how many Barons there are in the Marvel universe.
I can't remember specifically. I do know that he's like of Doctor Strange villain in the comics.
Well, he's also Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Oh my goodness,
he's so good.
You want to talk about raising your acting bar a little bit?
Yeah, man.
And we'll talk about that more as we go through because he's probably as good as Cumberbatch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
The journey that character goes on in this movie is so interesting and compelling.
Totally,
and,
right?
Yeah. And I like the first time I saw it, and this is one, as much as I love this movie, I've probably only seen it maybe 5 times, which is ridiculous because it's only a few years old, but I've seen most of the Marvel movies at least 10.
Yeah.
You know? But it was a couple in before I really cared about the Mordo story. But the more I watch the movie, the more I almost start focusing on him, especially when we get to the end.
Yep.
And we'll talk about that more when we get there. But God, he is so good.
Yes. We can go ahead. I'll mention something else here in a minute.
Okay. So yeah, he's wandering around saying the name. Mordo finds him, and what was that?
Takes him to Cumberbatch.
He just takes him right there, wasn't there?
After he beats up the muggers, and runs them off.
Gang toughs.
Well, I do like this scene too because like they're going into this just regular looking building, and across the street is like this temple looking place.
Yep.
And Doctor Strange is like, "Are you sure that's not where we're supposed to go? It looks a lot more Camertage-y."
Yep, and he tells him. I like how subtly he's like, I stood in your spot once, and I too was disrespectful.
Yeah.
Piece of advice, forget everything you think you know, and I really like that because he can't. You know what I mean? And they immediately take him inside, and he's like, "I'll take you inside to introduce you to the Ancient One," and he immediately walks up to the first Ancient One
dude.
looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The old Asian guy, and he's like, "Oh, thank you for seeing me." As the real Ancient One is approaching him, and pouring him tea, who is
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton.
Yep. They first of all on that, I love "forget everything you think you know" as a piece of advice because anytime you see or hear that, it's great advice and also completely impossible to ever follow in any situation. But yeah, Tilda Swinton gets introduced as the Ancient One, which they got some flack when they cast her in this for sort of whitewashing some of these characters. I don't know anything about the Ancient One, so I'm not sure if it's a character of Asian origin or if they, sometimes they just feel like, it should be.
Yeah. Well,
like Iron Fist got the same thing when they brought him in. I think the thought process was, okay, yes, the character is white, but it came out in the 60s. So maybe if we're going to do it now, he could have an Asian origin.
Yes.
I don't know if this is the same thing or if this actually was a character of Asian origin and they actually were whitewashing it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know Tilda Swinton did a really good job.
Yeah.
That's all I've got on that.
Well, and that's why I kind of put it off for a minute because I did want to bring up, man, Tilda Swinton is so good.
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Tilda Swinton, like this is like maybe just overall one of the stronger one of the stronger acting movies. Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with why, because this movie is going to jump way high on my rankings considering it's a character that I'm not invested in at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And has not. I mean, we know he's integral now, but at the time he was just this outlier, like
just a one-off.
Yeah,
he was not a one-off, but
he was not part of the Avengers. He was not, not even connected the way Ant-Man was connected to the Avengers. He is completely off doing his own thing in a different, Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I've been thinking ahead also, and I already I feel like I want to vote present. When it comes time to put Doctor Strange on the list, because he's not going to be as high as I want it to be.
Right.
Right. So good.
Yeah.
So the next chunk of the movie is basically, I mean, this definitely has more time lapse stuff happening, right? Yep. Because he goes, he has that moment of the realization, because she does that thing where she knocks his astral self out of his body, and he kind of gets to see his physical body there, and then he gets sucked back in, and he's like, "What did you do to me?
Yeah.
What was in that tea?" Yeah, she's like, "It's just tea."
Which was
honey.
Which was awesome, and I was. One of the few things I knew about Doctor Strange was the astral plane stuff. That's one of the things I had seen, and to automatically get a peek of that, and then to really get a payoff with it. Yeah, a little while later into the movie, I was super happy with the way they included that in, and I liked the way that played on screen.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
So basically, after that, that's where he's just kind of teach me, you teach me this, and then we get a pretty good montage here. There's a lot of great stuff in here, but we go on his little journey now, because now he's studying everything, he's reading all the books, he's attempting to do the martial arts and stuff that they're doing, and they're trying to teach him to call on the little powers, open up the weapons and stuff like that, and you see him kind of struggling with it a little bit, he's got the little sparks thing happening, but he's not quite tapping into the powers.
And as far as the time lapse stuff goes, with the medical recovery, that's one of those things where you watch that scene and you see him going to hit rock bottom, and you're looking at that going, okay, this is 6 months probably, at least, maybe a year, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but it's got to be around there. I have no idea on this one. I mean, you probably couldn't convince me it's less than 6 months, but you could easily convince me it was 6 years also, and I'd be fine with any amount of time in that range, because he goes through so much. Now, we know how smart he is and how quick of a learner he is, and once he dives into this stuff, obviously he's a natural at it.
Yeah.
So
I think they say that too at some point, right? Mm-hmm. They realize that he is very receptive to this.
Yeah.
More than most people are, and they do kind of show you that he's really plowing through all of the books, because there's that time where he brings that giant stack of books back to the library, and he's like, "You read all those?" And he's like, "Yeah, finished them. What's next? What else can I read?" And that's when he starts getting into he brings them down to the ancient ones, personal library, and that's when he starts reading the really powerful stuff. So they do kind of do that thing where they're like, well, he's obviously really good at this, he's really fast at it, he's really smart at it, but I do still feel there's a good amount of time there for him to
and there's got to be.
There has to be, right?
Yep. Well, it's such a good. I love some of the little things they throw in through that. Just little things that could almost be throwaway lines, but are such world building, I guess, around it all. When Wong says, no knowledge is forbidden in Kamar-Taj. He's like, so this is the stuff. This is the forbidden text. He's like, no knowledge is forbidden here. Just certain rituals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I loved that, and I just love this whole. They show how much he has defined himself through his hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why he's struggling, and that's why he's not getting it.
Right.
And I just think that's such a interesting development.
They do that scene where he's talking to the Ancient One, saying that he doesn't think he's ever going to be able to get it, and she's like, it's not about your hands.
Right.
And she brings in the guy who's missing a hand, and he's still able to do it. Conjure the stuff. So yeah, that's a cool moment.
Yeah, I like the dynamic they start building with him and Wong also.
Yeah,
he keeps trying to make jokes, and Wong just stone faces him all the time. And it's around the time too when he's going for those the books that he's not supposed to be reading.
Yeah,
and
he takes that one right off of Wong's desk while he's reading it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best.
He starts doing the portals behind him and moving stuff around, and as soon as he distracts him, he just portals in and grabs the book, and Wong turns back around, and it's just gone.
Well, and that's when he's listening to Beyonce.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
He's got the headphones in. I like that.
Just Wong, like Beyonce.
Yeah. like Adele. Remember he starts.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He's like Adele. I can't remember anybody else's name. Oh, Bono. He names a bunch of them. But yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, well, I think this is getting to a pretty important part here, too, because when he does start looking at those books, he notices the pages are ripped out of the one book, and Wong tells him what they are. He's like, it's a specific spell that was stolen by these former pupils they've now aligned themselves with Dormammu.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we have seen them. We kind of glazed over.
That was at the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
We did glaze over that. Like, that was how the movie opens, with them coming in and stealing that spell, basically.
Which, I mean, I'm not gonna say he's on the level of the rest of the cast, but Mads Mikkelsen's pretty good too.
Man,
yeah.
I can't. I struggle. The one thing I'll say, which is not his fault at all. I struggle not to feel like he should be in a Highlander movie. Like, you know, I don't know. I can't really explain it. Just, I'm like, man, this guy just walked right from one set to the next. But yeah, he's great.
Mads Mikkelsen in a heartbeat.
But no, he's great.
So, I guess this kind of brings us to the part two where he decides he wants to figure out what was on the missing pages. Right, Doctor Strange does. And this is where he grabs the Eye of Agamotto?
Yep.
The Eye of Agamotto. He grabs it because he grabs it off the little pillar there and figures out how to do the rewinding of time or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And this is how he basically rewinds time on the book to put the pages back so that he could read what was on the pages.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting how focused that power can be.
Yeah, it is really neat. Like, cause he does some practicing with like the apple.
Yeah.
And like he makes the apple like get eaten and then rotten, and then he brings the apple all the way back, like when he's like testing the powers. It's a really cool scene.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen like focused time manipulation like that before.
Yeah.
Conceptually, even.
Yeah.
And that may be straight out of the pages of Doctor Strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
But as much time travel stuff as we've seen throughout stories in Hollywood and whatever else, I can't think of another instance that's anything like that.
Right.
I did. The Eye of Agamotto actually is right out of the books.
Well, that I know.
Yeah. So, that's really cool. And then we do learn in this movie too, not right away, but it's pretty quick. We find out that is an Infinity Stone.
Is it? I don't think we find out till the end.
Is it the end when he
Yeah.
says? Oh yeah, that's when
at the end,
because Wong says something about like.
Not a good idea to walk around with an Infinity Stone around your neck.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's very cool. So that's a neat moment too. I just skipped all the way ahead to it, but whatever.
That's all right. No, well, we sort of.
We're not locked into any format. We're just
right. Well, and it's neat too that it contains the time stone, right? Like it makes total sense. It's a great way. I'm really amazed at the way that Marvel was able to work the Infinity Stones into all these other. Like because like the Cosmic Cube was already an existing artifact from the Marvel comics, but it wasn't an Infinity Stone in the books. But the way they were able to like just make the two work together, and they're doing the same thing here with the Eye of Agamotto. Just all the way through, I've been really impressed with the way Marvel has hidden the Infinity Stones in these other artifacts to tell their overarching story. I think it's so cool.
We get to see their power, we get to see what they're capable of, more or less, and then. They don't have to explain it. Yeah. When we get, we've already established the MacGuffins. Right. When we get to Infinity War, so they can just be there. Yep. Yep. And you get the sense they make them so powerful in each setting. You already have the sense of like what somebody with all of them would be capable of.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And it is done in such a they don't waste a whole movie building up the time stone. Yep. They just make it part of the movie, show you how strong it is, and at the end. So like you said, when you get to Infinity War and these things really matter, not only do you not need the backstory because you've already gotten it, but you've gotten it in such a subtle way that it's not like you had to you didn't have to take away from your character to explain this thing at any point. Yep. You've just put so much thought and background time into it that it just naturally everything's in place all of a sudden. Right.
All right, so that brings us, I guess, to this is where like the war stuff really starts picking up, right? Because where do we get from here? Because he reads those pages.
Well, we do the thing on Everest where he finally gets his.
That's right. That's right.
So he finally learns how to run everything, and then he really starts to pick things up.
Right.
He does the things with the pages.
You get a lot more relationship building and stuff like that. You get more Mordo.
You get more Mordo.
A lot of insight into where he comes from and his reverence for the Ancient One. Really builds through these. I mean, it's already there, but our knowledge of it builds through these scenes.
Yep. You get a little glimpse of you get a little establishment of his relationship with the Ancient One. I like that when he starts to excel, she doesn't try to slow him down. They even have that scene where she's like, Wong told me you did whatever. And he's like, Wong told on me? And they kind of set it up like, okay, well, he's going to get in trouble or told to back down. Instead, she's just like, you're excelling. We need to make sure you're not practicing your spells where you can hurt somebody, and shows them the mirror dimension. You know what I mean? So I like that.
When is it that she explains what's the bad guy's name?
Caecilius.
Okay. When is it that she starts to explain that she had trained him and then he had gone dark?
I don't think she does. Mordo tells him. Okay. Yeah, Mordo and Wong tell him about it. She doesn't really talk about it, I don't think. I remember.
So that's during this part too that we learn that backstory there. That Strange learns it more importantly.
Yep. They kind of talk about
that. Kind of that warning thing. Like,
right.
You're doing great, but this has happened before and didn't end well.
Yep. So then we pretty much get to there. Oh, go ahead.
So wasn't it somewhere around here though too, where Doctor Strange realized that the Ancient One was drawing some of her power from the Dark Dimension, and kind of called it out, and Mordo didn't believe him. Right, Mordo kind of got offended by that. And,
yes,
was that here?
I think that was early here because he realized it was true once she showed up in that in the Inception fight scene.
Yeah.
Right,
is when he realized, oh, you're right, she is drawing power from the Dark Dimension, and then he gets very hurt and
got that logo
conflicted. She gets the little it's crazy. That logo's crazy. It almost looks like a goat, the goat horns, almost very evil, like
demonic,
demonic. It's interesting. So that part happens here too, because Doctor Strange realizes that she's drawing energy from the Dark Dimension. I don't remember if it was here that he says that that's how she's not aging, or if that was later that he explains that, but that's definitely the basis for it.
Yeah. And I don't think he necessarily figures it all out right now. I think but he starts to question a little bit. Don't you ever wonder how she does this? Don't you ever wonder how she does that?
Yeah.
And he does when he's looking through the books. He sees some of the old. He's like, I know how she does it. But
which they kind of lay the groundwork there, because they when they talk about Caecilius and his quest for the power and connecting with that dark energy, like Endless Life is one of the things they talk about, and they always talk about how long she's been around as the Ancient One. And it comes one of those things where it's like, well, how is she doing that? I also like how it builds the inquisitive nature of Doctor Strange.
Yes,
obviously this is a guy who wants to know everything. So there's nothing he's going to take for granted.
Right.
Well, and they also I like Mordo gets so offended by it. Strange doesn't seem to really care. He just wants to know.
Right.
He doesn't care that she's drawing from the Dark Dimension or what. You know what I mean? He's not like, oh, she must be evil. Like Mordo's immediately like, well, what is? Oh my gosh, she's the devil then.
Totally.
And he's just like, she does this thing, right?
So I guess it was right about here then that Wong shows him the doorways to the different Sanctum Sanctorums, right?
Yep.
Like there's a London one, there's a New York one,
and a Hong
Kong one, and then this is where the attack happens,
right?
Because Strange ends up running into the door that takes him to the New York Sanctum Sanctorum, which is really cool. Which ends up being his base of operations after this. So we get our first look at the Sanctum, and it's neat because as he's running through, and him and Mordo both are fighting off.
Not Mordo yet. Just him.
It was just him, and then there was the protector of the Sanctum was there,
who dies right away.
He gets killed right away. That's right.
Had they introduced the cape yet?
The cape's here.
I know this is where it finds him and kind of joins with him. Did they ever show it before that?
They did not. We had that moment earlier where Mordo tells him that those boots chose Mordo.
Yep.
And he kind of gives him that spiel about how
the staff of the Living Tribunal.
That's right. So he gives him that spiel how eventually you'll be chosen by these magical artifacts. So this is where the cape, what do they call it? It was the cloak of levitation, or it was something like that. because it chooses him in this fight because it gets knocked out of the case and immediately goes over and like wraps him and we have that great scene where he floats up after he falls off
and he's
the
in
banister.
full costume for the first time. Really. Like he's got that look. And
and
that's
again, so good.
As a guy who never cared a bit about Doctor Strange, I got chills.
Yeah,
you know? And I got chills the 5th time I watched it.
And Marvel's been really good about it through and through, but it's amazing to see like straight up comic book Doctor Strange in this movie. I mean, the cloak, the blue robes he's wearing underneath, like everything about it looks like it jumped straight off the pages.
Every time I see it for a new character, I think this is just a slap in the face to everybody who made superhero movies in the early aughts.
Dude, no kidding. How they constantly said superhero costumes won't work on film. That won't work. That'll look dumb. And boom, here we go. That's what I mean. Everything about the Marvel movies.
Because Marvel's just going at him going, what if we don't change anything?
Yeah.
At all.
That's just their
Put it on the screen. Maybe that.
I know. I will always point to these movies. That's why even when we talk about the He-Man stuff, you can never tell me that stuff won't work in a movie because I've seen a Marvel movie. I've seen it. I know it will work.
So yeah, we get him in full costume now. Finally. Now this is after because that fight was awesome.
That whole fight is awesome. When they started
opening those doors and he basically strands
the one in the middle of the desert.
He just starts tossing the Caecilius henchmen through these portals. And just leaving them.
And then changing the dot.
Yeah,
that's what I
want. That one was awesome because he chucks that chick through into the desert. And she kind of lands and rolls for a while and gets up and start running back, and you got that kind of tense moment where he's
fighting with the other guy.
He's fighting the other guy, so he can't get over there to make and she's just running at him, and he doesn't want to go back to 2-on-1, and he finally gets it closed right as she's jumping up.
So we got to talk about because the start of that fight scene is where he introduces himself to Caecilius.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
which might be the best.
Listen, that might be my favorite scene in any Marvel movie. like you guys were both talking about how you haven't watched this movie a ton. Danny, you hadn't seen it since the theater.
I've only seen it since at the theater, so this was my second time watching.
So I've watched this movie a bunch since it came out, and I cannot say 100% I can say with 100% certainty. At least 2/3 of the times I've watched this movie is just because I thought of that scene and wanted to see that scene. But I wasn't just gonna skip to that scene. And of course we're talking about the scene where he comes down and they come in, they murder the guy, the actual guardian of the New York Sanctum. And so he meets Caecilius and he's like, and you are, he's like, he goes, Mr., and he's Doctor. Because he's constantly correcting everybody. He's a doctor. Which was a great that we didn't mention the first time he meets the Ancient One. And she's like, Mr. Strange. He's like, it's Doctor, actually. And she's like, oh, well, surely not anymore. We glossed over that scene. So here, he's Mr. and he's a Doctor. He's like, oh, Mr. Doctor.
It's strange, actually.
Yeah, well, maybe. But who am I to judge?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, dude.
Yeah. And then he never corrects him. Yeah. So later, because after they have the big fight and he catches him in that weird magic restraint thing, and then he's still calling him Mr. Doctor.
Yeah.
He's like, Mr. Doctor, you will never prevail. And he still doesn't correct him, man. It's amazing.
Mr. Doctor.
It's amazing. And I love that. I don't know why they decided to put that aspect of the character there, because he does that a lot. Like in Infinity War when he meets Spider-Man. He's like, hey, I'm Peter Parker. And he's like, Doctor Strange. He's like, oh, we're using our made-up names. I am Spider-Man. He just gives him that look and still doesn't correct him. Like, that's just his thing. Okay, fine.
Well, I think it's just that it's the intelligence part of Doctor Strange, right? Because he's just like, in his mind, he's like, oh, geez, okay, whatever. Moving on. I'm not even going to have this argument with these guys,
Two things around the aspects that we're talking about here. One is when we talk about that comment from the Ancient One again. I love how she is that character that grounds him by not giving it an inch to him and him being a jerk. Doesn't care, just goes on it, straight faces it, but never lets him win.
Right.
Which everybody else he just tramples over.
Yep.
And she's always got the upper hand. Which is
because she doesn't argue with him.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that when we start talking about Infinity War, and we're jumping ahead just a little bit, but as an aspect of the Strange character, I remember being really excited, like when they cast Paul Rudd, specifically thinking I'm going to get to see Paul Rudd play off of Tony Stark one of these days, you know?
Yep.
Man, I never had that thought with Doctor Strange until I saw Infinity War.
Yeah.
And as much as I already loved Doctor Strange for his own movie, like immediately in the first scene of Infinity War, he becomes one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
because
totally.
His toe-to-toe with Tony, and both of them having that knock back down attitude. Oh, it's so much fun.
So I think that pretty much brings us to our big, like the Inception fight we were talking about comes up pretty quickly
so
here,
much
right?
fun.
Yeah.
With all the because he locks them into the mirror dimension to try to protect everybody in New York without realizing that their powers are actually stronger in the mirror dimension.
Right.
So this is where they start doing the thing where they're rolling the buildings.
And this is where Mordo's
flipping
there
things
by
around.
now.
Yeah, Mordo's there.
And I love that too because he plays it like he's got the upper hand. He's like, now we're here and you can't hurt anybody. And Silius and all them are like, okay.
All right. Yeah. So that
And Mordo gets mad at him right away too.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't clever. This is suicide.
And the Ancient One ends up having to show up here to bail them out.
Which is another one of those. Talk about an arrival of a character that doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, even as the Ancient One, you know, we kind of know like, oh, she's serious business, but. You're not invested in the character to the point you think you are.
in that role until they do the reveal.
Yeah, until she shows up.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, who's here? Oh, it's her. Oh, it's her.
Yeah, it's
here. We go.
So like things start changing, and she lowers in, and it's like dun dun dun. That moment, and you're just so totally invested by then. Even whether you care about it, you're like, yes. Now what, Caecilius? Let's do it. Here we go.
Yeah, and this is
and
awesome.
she does. She takes them apart.
Yeah, totally.
And I just like even leading up to that point, like the whole Inception fight. And there's not a lot you can say about it except for like you can't describe it.
Yeah,
I could watch it right now and I wouldn't be able to tell you what was happening
bonkers,
out loud.
Man.
But
it
is so neat to just watch. Like it's nonstop. I mean, like. Filming that had to be a nightmare.
Right.
But it is just, I mean, I guess it was just running in front of a green screen, actually, so it probably wasn't hard at all. Well, but the way they shift and move that world around, because, I mean, you got guys running on platforms that are clearly ending, and they just keep moving, and, like, the world shifts under them and builds, and it's oh, man.
For the actors, it was probably just, okay, run from there to here.
Yeah.
Kind of fall down at the end.
Yeah.
Run off this green screen plank and land in your big poofy thing.
Yeah.
But from the thinking about being the director, the cinematographer, all those guys that have to have a idea of what it's going to look like at the end.
I know. I can't even imagine.
Right.
Like, how do you piece that together?
So
again, I've seen it 5 times and I don't know what it looks like. You know?
Okay, so he's going to run and fall off this plank, but this is actually the part where the city is changing underneath him and the building's opening up and he's running to the end of a sideways fire escape and falling through the middle of the building. Like, what
in the world? Yeah.
I can totally see this, too, as being one of those where, you know, like the director's probably got a certain vision, but his vision probably leads about to, you know, taking it to the editors and the CG guys and going, all right, you guys have seen Inception, do that. And then that guy takes it, makes this scene and brings it back and goes, is this what you mean? And they're like, yes, this is perfect. And I feel bad because that CG guy should be a hero.
Yeah, that's a
his
good
name
call,
should
man.
be on this DVD cover, you know. And nobody knows who he is.
Yeah,
but
well, that's a good man. Those guys are artists, right?
Totally.
And they don't get, you know what I mean? And we don't even know.
I hope they make.
I couldn't tell you a single CGI guy's name, and they are true artists. Like, they are really the ones that bring all this stuff to life. Man, mad props to all you guys. I'm sure you all listen to our podcast and all watch us.
We're huge in the CG community.
Huge fans.
Are we? So this is where does the Ancient One get hurt here?
Yes.
In this? Yeah. So I think we totally glossed over the scene earlier where
Is it at the beginning of that fight or the end when that logo kind of shows up on her and Mordo realizes it's...
It's when she shows up.
It's when she shows up.
Yeah. She shows
that's
up
why
with
she's
it.
so powerful.
Yeah.
Because she's in the mirror dimension too, so she draws on that same
and that's when
dark
Mordo
energy.
sees it and doesn't crack right away. That's another thing I love about the Mordo journey here.
Right.
Yeah.
Is because he sees it and his world is broken as of this moment.
Yeah.
But there's still a half an hour movie where he's fully invested into doing what they've got to do.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
So we forgot about the scene earlier where Strange got injured and he portaled to the hospital and had Rachel McAdams fix him.
That was the payoff. That was the payoff
he did
on
the
the astral
astral
stuff that I was talking about earlier. Yeah.
Then he had the astral fight with the other guy, because this was in the middle of that fight scene in the Sanctum.
Yep.
So he has that astral fight with one of the other guys, which was kind of amazing.
I mean, and like the action of this movie is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Like all of and again, I wouldn't think of Doctor Strange as a character I'm going to get a ton out of the action scenes for.
Yeah, totally.
And they're some of my favorites.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're so well put together and well thought out and so bonkers from their origin, because they are. I mean, the background's shifting around you, or you're a ghost now, or you've got a door to anywhere, or whatever, and they turn these into flawless action scenes that are just visually out of this world.
And you know,
literally,
while you're talking about like not picturing that sort of stuff from the books and the movies, one of the things that I absolutely love and totally appreciate about a lot of these movies, and this is one of the very specific examples, is when you see how the powers from the comic books translate to the screen. Because in the comics, you always see Doctor Strange with like the circles around his hands, like the magic powers. And seeing those in the movie and the way they work, it's just kind of one of those things like, oh my gosh, like that's it. Like that's what I've been seeing in the comics all this time, and that's what it looks like in motion.
Right.
That is really cool. Like I love stuff like that. Like you just get
I just like with the costumes, I feel that's a Marvel thing.
Yeah.
Where there's like, you know, I can just imagine some old Hollywood producer going, okay, well, you know, how does this translate to screen? What do we got to do to make this to where, you know, it'll look good on film and audiences will accept it and all that stuff? And the Marvel guys just going, you see this in the book here?
Yeah.
We're going to do that. But up there.
Yeah, totally. So the Ancient One gets hurt in this fight, and so that's why we get kind of the same thing again, where he portals to the hospital and again calls on Rachel McAdams to help her, to try to save her. But then we get that scene where like she astral projects out of her body, so Strange follows her.
Yep.
And we get that like that big speech where she talks about how like she was never able to see past this moment, so this is the moment that she knows that she's gonna die or whatever.
Yeah.
And we kind of get that big speech there, which is really cool. That's a cool moment too, because she slows time way down. And like she's just standing outside, like watching the snow fall real slow, and she's even says like, you know, I've always known that this was gonna be the end, but look at me right now. Here I am slowing down time, trying to draw out this moment as long as possible.
Yeah,
it's just a
so
really
I can
cool.
watch the snowfall.
So I can watch the snowfall. Yeah.
And again, just conceptually, what they've done with time manipulation in this movie is just awesome.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, they hit two really big beats here in this conversation too that we can't gloss over.
Yeah.
Because the one is where she reveals that she's never looked into Strange's future.
Yeah.
Because
she
she even said, you want to know what I see when I looked into your future? And he's like, I think he says no at first, and she's like, come on, yeah, you do. Yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah, I do. And she's like, well, I never looked into your future. All I ever saw was your potential. And then the big beat is, of course, you never understood the one most important thing. He's like, well, what's that? And she's like, it's not about you. And we get that big slow pan, which, while I love that scene, it's also, I don't know, I almost feel like he's not ready for that. You know, I feel like she says that, but he has, and they treat it like, oh, the glass shatters. Yeah. Doctor Strange is a different guy, but, I almost feel like he hasn't quite realized that yet. But it's still a great scene, and it's the truth of the character. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, if he had already realized that, he wouldn't need her to say it. Well,
yes. I kind of get the feeling like even when she says it, he's not ready to hear it yet, which is also fine. Yeah. Which is also fine. Yeah. Just like, the moment, they put the weight of the moment, like he does realize it, and I don't feel like he does.
Right. So after she dies here, this is where they take the fight to Hong Kong, right? Because
pretty much
we know that they're now attacking the Hong Kong Sanctum. And this is kind of a neat moment too, because by the time they get there, they've already won.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They've got in there. They've done what they need to do. Unleash Dormammu or whatever. So we get to see him use the Eye of Agamotto again, and he just rewinds everything,
which is so amazing.
So cool. He resets it back to before the moment when all that happens, and it's so cool.
Well, and that scene is so cool, because we've seen in several of the movies now, cities being destroyed.
Yeah.
So now seeing that same type of scene, but in reverse.
Yeah.
That's like whoever thought of that. I hope they got a raise. That's,
yeah, it was cool.
Well, and I love that because you do, like you said, you get there and all of a sudden everything's already down,
right?
You know, and from the audience perspective, you're just like, oh, that's jarring.
Yeah.
So I love. Okay, I want to. There's some really cool stuff that I love about this scene.
Okay.
The Dormammu scene. Yep. That's where I want to get to now because Strange realizes that he needs to go and like I know we have a scuffle in the streets with them, but like he realizes he's got a plan to go and stop this whole thing. So he goes straight in to face Dormammu.
Yep.
So one thing I absolutely love about this scene is we get this beautiful cosmic scene with all these bright neon colors and everything, and it looks like freaking Jack Kirby artwork on the screen. It is gorgeous. Like, this is the way you always saw the cosmos drawn in the books, and it was so neat seeing that in person. We get more of that like in Thor Ragnarok. There's a lot of those great neon colors and everything, and I just love that because it just like that's what made those cosmic scenes feel so cool and special when you were looking at the books. It's not just like black space. Like there's all these beautiful colors and it just looks cool and special. So I love the way they translated that.
And I never made the Kirby relation to you. Just said that. But yeah, that is exactly
that's totally what they were going for.
Yeah.
That's totally what and I love it. The second thing about this is a very personal thing for me, and it's just one of those neat moments I had because it's something I didn't think I'd ever see in the movies. The very first comic book I ever bought myself as a kid was this issue of What If. It's a What If Wolverine. What if Wolverine had been Lord Vampires? Had been Lord of the Vampires, right? And it was a random comic I bought because it had Wolverine on the cover. But it's the first book I ever bought myself. The villain in the book, one of the villains in the book, is Dormammu.
Oh, okay.
And so the very first book I bought myself as a kid is where I learned who Dormammu was. And I thought he was a very cool-looking villain because, of course, when I was a kid, I just looked at the pictures. I loved the pictures. I loved all that stuff. So there's this neat thing to me where, like, now I'm seeing Dormammu on screen in a movie, and I'm just like, man, this is so cool because, like, that was, like, one of the very first villains I ever was introduced to by a comic book because I bought this book myself as a kid. So that was just one of those really neat personal things for me. I'm just like, I can't believe I'm seeing Dormammu in a movie.
Well, so just a real quick aside, is that the one you bought, or did you go back and find it?
I bought a new one recently because this is like in really good shape.
Yeah, that's why.
So I still have my original one.
Oh, okay.
Like the cover got ripped off the book.
Okay,
I stapled the cover back on. So I still have that one. But just this past year at Comic-Con, I found this while I was digging through a box, and I was like, I want this because this was the first book I ever bought.
Because that's what I was gonna say. Any of my very first comics would not be.
Mine was,
man, they were shredded.
I carried that book.
I've got boxes of every one I've ever bought, and they're all boarded and mint like that. And
that's cool, man.
I carried that book with me everywhere because it was so special to me that I was like comic books. So like that book went to me with school every day, and you know what I mean. So it's weird too because it's just like a random what if book, but like it's special because it was my first comic book.
That's what's important. That's what it should be.
Yeah, totally, right? So
I'm glad we're doing this show.
Yeah. So Dormammu was awesome.
That's
to
awesome.
see.
Well, and I love too because that is a character that is a big deal in the Doctor Strange lore, but feels like it probably is too big or too powered or too whatever, especially for an intro movie. Like you wouldn't expect to see something like that, but they brought him in such a way that it flowed perfectly. Because he wasn't like running around trying to get Strange or whatever. He was being summoned.
They call him a Titan too, don't they?
Oh, did they?
Did they say something like that to him? Well, because I know. Okay, so I know Thanos is a Titan. No, I'm mixing up Guardians. Guardians. Okay, so they didn't refer to him as a Titan. Okay. But he is a very powerful villain, right? He's a he's a very strong villain. But the way they handled him in this movie was cool because it was like. He had to be summoned, right?
Yeah, they didn't have to depower him. They just worked him in a way that it worked out.
Yes.
Well, he wasn't being summoned. He wanted the Earth.
Right.
But
he was being let in,
the Sanctums kept him from getting to Earth. So once the Sanctums were destroyed, he could just rip open reality and do whatever he wanted.
Right. So we get this amazing scene with Doctor Strange's face-off with Dormammu, which is just... I
always forget, too, like, they teased that when he first starts messing around with the Eye of Agamotto and the time manipulation, and Wong freaks out, you know, because he's like, "Well, you want to trap us in a time loop for eternity, you know, or whatever."
Yeah.
And then so when Strange gets his idea and just flies right into the belly of the beast, essentially, and goes up, and then as the audience, we don't know what's going on because he just runs up like he's gonna have this face off and gets murdered. And then all of a sudden, like, he's back. And we're like, what? It just happened.
It's great because they repeat the lines exactly, but like midway through Dormammu's response, he goes, "Wait, what's going on here?" Like he realizes that it's a time loop.
And sticking with the theme of Doctor Strange and having no idea how long any of it took to happen, this is another one of those things. Just like with the movie Groundhog Day, there's all these like theories and thoughts about like how many times he actually relived this. This is another one where we see this happen 10 times, 15 times in short bursts, whatever. Did they mention how many times it happened?
No.
Because it could have been I mean, this could have been happening for 100 years worth of 2-minute scenes.
We just keep getting all these scenes of Doctor Strange dying in different ways.
And it's fine, man. You've got to bring basically an evil god to his breaking point through boredom.
Right. So Dormammu is this character that exists out of time, and they make sure to say that several times. There's no no time in the dark dimension or whatever. So like, how long did it take him to get tired of murdering Doctor Strange? Like, but then finally he's like, ugh, all right, fine, what do you want? And I love, man, I love. We talked about on the Streak Easy, at the end of Triple H's Hell in a Cell with The Undertaker, how frustrated he was at the end. I don't know why. I love seeing characters frustrated. And so I love how frustrated Dormammu is.
I don't think the word characters is the word you're looking for. Just people.
Fair. Because I love how frustrated Dormammu is at the end of the. He's just like, fine, what do you want? This omnipotent, outside of time God character, and Doctor Strange annoyed him into submission.
Because you got to think, I mean, like, essentially, for all intents and purposes, there's some level of omnipotence to this being, and he's now trapped in this time loop. He can't do all of the things he can do, and as a being that supposedly exists out of time, to just be locked into this, maybe it didn't take that long.
Right.
Maybe it happened 1,000,000 times. Maybe it just happened the 10 we saw.
Well, that also shows us a little bit of the power of the Infinity Stone, right?
For sure.
Totally.
So
that's good stuff too.
Yeah,
so ultimately that's the deal he makes. He's just like, hey, look, you back off and I'll break this whole time.
You leave this dimension forever.
Take your stupid jerks with you.
So that's a great scene too, because when he gets back down there, he tells those guys, he's like, oh, well, you're getting what you want now.
You're not going to like it.
You're not going to like it. And you see them basically like melt away and like get sucked up to where Dormammu is.
Which they become something, right? Those are Dormammu's, like that's from the comic. They get melted into those. They have a name.
I don't know.
They're in your comic. I saw pictures of them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
I'm going to open this back up now.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'm sure you're not wrong, but I can't add anything to that.
So yeah, right there. These things, the mindless ones.
The mindless.
So they get melted into the mindless ones.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
That all have Cyclops powers.
According to this book. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So like their eyes are crumbling and melting the whole time.
Yeah.
But then when they finally do get melted and sucked up, their eyes melt away and become the one line like in the thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Man, these movies are so good. So good. I love it. Cool. So then we have that little scene with Mordo where he's basically like,
where like I said, like his breaking moment happened a while ago, but he still had to win the fight, and save the Earth. But at that point, now he can let himself break, because he's so heartbroken, destroyed by knowing that all of these years he spent fighting and learning and battling against this dark power under the tutelage of this person that he had 100% reverence for, and to find out that she was actually doing the thing that they were fighting against the whole time, like his entire worldview is just crumbled.
Yeah.
And you can see, again, just how good of an actor Chiwetel is.
Yeah.
Like, you draw so much emotion out of this last scene from him. And that's why I say the more I watch this movie, especially when we get to the end points here, the more I start to focus on Mordo and how good that whole character's journey has been. And I didn't even realize I was following that journey until we get to the end, and it's got at a breaking point. You know?
He basically vows now to like end all of them, right? Like,
well,
he's
I
gonna
don't
put a
think, like, I think
stop.
right here he's just like, I'm out, basically.
Yeah.
I will no longer walk this path.
He just leaves.
Chiwetel, no.
Yeah, well, and I love this too because this was a total reminder for me that they set up Baron Mordo as a villain.
Yeah.
And we have yet to see this, so we have potential future.
I mean, they're not announcing all their movies 3 years in advance anymore, but Doctor Strange 2 has to be on.
I hope so.
On the
I hope
horizon.
so. I want to see more of
Fingers
I want to
crossed.
see more of this cosmic-y stuff.
Yeah.
Man. I'm way into this. I think it's so cool.
But basically, we get to the point where like New York doesn't have a Sanctum Protector anymore, and so Strange takes over as that. Is he technically Sorcerer Supreme yet?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they don't call him that. They don't say he is. They don't even call him that by the time we get to Infinity War. He's just
Yeah. So I don't know if there's another. Yeah, maybe that'll be.
I mean, there are other people on his level then right now because the other Sanctums still have their
right.
Well,
protectors.
Well, there's just Wong really because the other Sanctums were destroyed.
Oh, were they?
Well, the London one was definitely destroyed.
The London one and Kaimatage was destroyed.
They just keep the same one then, or they don't rebuild.
I don't know.
I mean, they haven't said.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at the end of that, because they say London has fallen.
Yeah.
I think.
I know they all get destroyed as they're going through. I guess I just had it in my head that that we'd need more than one, to protect the Earth. But I guess if they were protecting the Earth from Dormammu,
right?
Maybe we don't need 3 anymore.
Well, until he decides that, whatever, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
I hope there maybe we'll get Dormammu again. There
Who
could be
knows?
more potential for stuff with him too. But I like that. I like that they leave some of this stuff open ended because that feels more comic booky too. That's one of those things about another thing about the older superhero movies that I always hated is that like the villain had to always die in the end, and I like that we
still
don't
get a lot of that.
We
in
still
the
do,
movies,
but not always.
Yeah.
And like I feel like there are certain times where they leave some of the stuff open ended, and for potential future use, and I like that.
Well, and it's evolving to that too.
Yeah.
The early ones. Like the early ones, everybody dies except Loki. If you're a bad guy, you dead.
And technically, I never considered Red Skull dying. I mean, he teleported away.
Well, you remember at the end of the first Thor, Loki might as well have been dead.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't know
for sure.
Yeah.
And which is the exact same with Red Skull.
Yeah.
But I think that pretty much brings us to the end,
what was
right?
what's the actual final scene there? Was there any epilogue? I mean, I know there's the post-credit stuff, but I can't remember where the movie itself actually ends and goes into credits.
The movie ends. Man, that's a good. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think we're gonna. I can't.
Well, couldn't have mattered too much then.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we get the. Okay.
Well, no. The ending is the where he puts the thing back and he's just like.
Oh yeah, the Eye of Agamotto.
Agamotto thing.
Shouldn't wear an Infinity Stone.
Yeah, that's just the.
That was that
the
scene.
Infinity Stone.
That was the
that's
scene.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the credit scenes was the Mordo thing, where he
poor Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah, he sought out the guy who was walking again.
Benjamin Bratt from Miss Congeniality.
Yeah, there you go.
But the mid credit sequence is the lead into Ragnarok,
right? Which is just a scene from Ragnarok.
Yeah, like a version of it. It plays a little different in Ragnarok, but it's that scene where Doctor Strange is sitting there with Thor, basically telling him how dangerous he is and wondering why he's on us. But again, you get a even that scene helps build the character a little bit, because now he has become this protector of the realm.
Yeah,
because he basically says that he's like, look, you and your family are on some of our lists.
Yeah.
So we want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, and if I do this for you, you'll leave? Okay, well, let's go.
Yeah. Hey, I like in that scene how he's wearing the yellow gloves, too.
Yeah.
Which is like straight out of the comics. Doctor Strange wearing the gloves. That was kind of cool.
And then the post-credit sequence is where we get Mordo and comes and finds... Because we, found out earlier that the Benjamin Bratt character had just basically learned enough mystic arts to make himself walk again, and then stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And so Mordo comes and has that confrontation with him and basically sucks the power out of him somehow, and has that line. And this is where we find out he's made a vow of destroying this all, because this is when he says, I figured out what's wrong with the world. Too many wizards.
And
that's our lead off. And
so that's
I'm getting chills.
I know, right? Yeah, because that's our full-on villain moment for Mordo. That is, it's awesome.
These characters done by these actors squaring off for a whole 2
amazing.
hours. I hope that movie gets made.
Yeah, this movie's fantastic. It's just.
It is ridiculous how excited I am at the prospect of a Doctor Strange 2.
I know, right?
Doctor Strange sequel.
God, man. Marvel, awesome. Marvel, good yay, indeed.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So one last thing I just want to throw out there while we're wrapping up. I'm a pretty staunch. What's the opposite of advocate? I'm pretty staunchly. I hate origin stories.
Yeah.
I love this movie. Yeah. And part of it is it's so not an origin story. I mean, there's so many of the origin stories are, here's half hour of this character being a tool. Oh, here's the one thing that happened. He's got bit by a spider, or he got his super serum injection. Now he's a superhero. It's almost like there's 2 half stories.
Yeah.
Like the half story of him getting to his thing, and then the half story of him being a superhero for the first time.
Yeah.
And man, that's just a snooze. But
and I think with like a lot of them, which I think is basically what you're saying, there's a lot of origin stories. First of all, most of the main characters, we already know them.
Right, yes.
And some because they're popular characters, and some because we've literally seen them 4 times in movies in the last 15 years,
Yep.
But with a character like Strange, nobody really knows where it comes from on the broad scale of movie audiences. People might know Doctor Strange is a thing, but I'm a comic book guy, and I barely know. Or I was a comic book guy at one point, and I barely know where he comes from.
Yep.
So we do need that. And then to add it onto it, it's not really a cookie-cutter origin story.
Yes.
So that makes it,
totally.
Not only is it important and we have to show it, even if it sucks, also, it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, I think my thing is just like, if I have to see Peter Parker get bit by a spider again, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yep.
But, which I'm so happy that I loved the way the Into the Spider-Verse handled that whole thing. Like, all right, one more time, let's do that. It was fun. They did it in a fun way. But like,
and then did it 5 more times.
But it was like a good running joke. At that point, like they were making fun of themselves with that, because they know at this point that nobody needs to know that anymore. But yeah, with a character like this, I totally appreciate it, especially done the way that it was done. So, yeah.
Well, and it was interesting too to kind of see it. One to kind of see it stretched out over the whole movie.
Yeah.
The way he's learning, and 2, I think that's the other thing that I think really stands out. A lot of the heroes kind of follow that hero's journey of like the call to action and the refusal.
Yeah.
Where like they have to accept being a superhero.
Yeah.
And even though Doctor Strange is not necessarily trying to become a superhero, he is working towards acquiring his power the whole movie.
Right,
he works for it, he wants it, he has to study and learn. It's
kind of neat seeing a character who wants it so bad.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome.
Because a lot of times there is that refusal of the call.
Yeah.
In these stories. So.
All right. Well, that was Mr. Doctor.
Yeah.
Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Doctor.
I hope that's the name of the sequel. I hope the sequel is not
Doctor Strange 2.
Doctor
Mr.
Strange.
Doctor.
Yeah.
The Return of Mr. Doctor.
I hope it's just Mr. Doctor.
Oh, awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to the show. As always, wherever you're listening to us or watching us, please hit that follow button or that subscribe button. You can find us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. So give us a review, leave us comments, hit the like button, do all those things to help spread the word on the show. And don't forget, we're going to be doing this right up to Avengers Endgame, which is coming up so quick. But we are in the end game now, because we are really rolling through Phase 3 here.
Just blew my mind.
Yeah, that's right. So Marvel Good Yay, got a few episodes left, and then boom, we're going to be watching the new Avengers movie. So hopefully you guys are enjoying. Stay tuned, lots more to come. Until next time, guys.
Marvel Good Yay.
All right.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.